Hi, this is Andrea Schulman again, and I got a really great question on the law of attraction and parenting from a viewer recently. Here's the question. My 3.5-year-old has always been a strong-willed child since she was a baby. I have now started to be impatient, even yell at her sometimes when I get really frustrated, which I feel horrible about afterwards. Please advise on how I can be more patient and have a better relationship with my child, one that doesn't involve me yelling to her for her to listen to me. Now, I have personally 2 children, 7 and 10, so I can totally empathize with this question. And while I will say that I still have my moments with my children, I have noticed that we've managed to dial that dynamic way down of the yelling and the frustration. And it's a lot more peaceful in my house than it used to be. And so today, in this quick law of attraction video, I want to talk a little bit about parenting with the law of attraction. But first, if you're watching this video on YouTube or my website, please make sure to subscribe because I do put out new law of attraction videos every week. Also, if you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook, please turn on your notifications so that you see these videos when they come out. All right, let's go ahead and get into this topic of the law of attraction and parenting. Okay, I get questions a lot about parenting and the law of attraction. You know, when you have a child and that child doesn't want to listen to you or they want to do their own thing, it can cause a great deal of stress within the family dynamic. And I totally get that. All right. And so I want to talk a little bit about what you can do within your family construct to take down the pressure of that and make things a little bit easier. And by the way, if you happen to hear some booming noises, there is a thunderstorm going on in the background right now, and I can't edit that out, so I do apologize for that. But that's what that noise is if you hear that. Okay, so here are my suggestions. When it comes to dealing with your children, all right, there are 2 things that you really can focus on that can be helpful. One is your level of guilt, and the other one is your definition of what is necessary. And so I really love this question that this viewer wrote into me because it does point to the guilt aspect. That's one of the first things that it mentions is that, you know, I get mad at my child and then I feel horrible about it on the back end. And guilt is something that isn't useful. So if you happen to find yourself in a position where you've yelled at your kid or you've been harsher than you wanted to, if all of a sudden you come out of that scenario and you start beating up on yourself for that, all that really does is it takes you from a negative place into a more and more negative place. And so that's one of the things I want to point out real quick is that if you slip up and you are harsh with your child or you're not as nice as you would like to be, if you start beating up on yourself, you're really only going to make the problem worse, all right? Because you're going to make yourself feel even worse. And when you're in a lower vibrational state, that creates even more problems in your reality. So that's the first thing that I want to point out, which is that if you have a moment where you snap at your kid, cut yourself some slack. All right, if you're the type of person that tends to feel guilty about that stuff, guess what? You didn't want to be that way. You had every intention of handling that interaction as best as you can. You're not some nasty person. You're a nice person who cares. So cut yourself some slack and allow your vibration to stay as stable as it can. So if I have a moment where I snap at my kids, oh well, I snapped at my kids. Okay, we'll do better next time. It's not that big of a deal. Rather than, I can't believe I did that, I'm such a horrible mom. You get the picture. Now, the other thing that goes along with this is changing your descriptions of what's necessary. And what I mean by this is that, at least I've noticed within my own parenting, which is that a lot of the things that I want my kids to do, or I get frustrated with my kids because they're not doing, really aren't that necessary. Rather, I've just found myself in a position where I'm trying to enforce the rules that everybody's been following, even if they're kind of nonsensical, even if they're not that important. See, if you strip away all of the things that you're trying to do and make your child do and the roles you're trying to get them to fit into, and you just get down to the essentials of what's best for them in a safety capacity. You know, what's going to help them feel loved, what's really important for them feeling as good as possible. If you strip away everything except that, you're going to find that a lot of the things that we as parents are trying to get our kids to do are actually not that important. So let me give you a couple examples. All right. So my daughter, she likes wearing mismatched socks. And I don't think she's the only one. I think a lot of these kids are doing this these days, where they wear socks that don't match. Right? And when she first started doing this, I initially wanted her to not do that. You got to find socks that match. These socks don't match. This doesn't work. Does it really matter if she wears matched socks though? No, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to put her at risk for anything bad happening. It's not going to ruin everything. It's going to be okay if she wears the mismatched socks. And if I remind myself that this isn't really a necessary rule, well, now I'm not pushing against her to do something that she doesn't want to be doing, and we avoid the argument altogether. And when you go through a situation like that where you identify that I'm trying to enforce something that really isn't that important, let me let my kid do what they want to do here, because I can tell that it's not a safety issue, it's not that big of a deal. They can kind of manage this decision. When you have that kind of an attitude about things, your child will do what works for him or her, and it will work out well. In fact, it may even end up working out well for you. Okay, so for this sock situation, I kind of let go of that. I realized it wasn't necessary. It's not something necessary I have to get my kid to do. They don't have to listen to my opinion on this. It's not that big of a deal. When I let go of that and just let her wear the socks, she was happier. And there was actually an added benefit for me, which is that I no longer have to match her socks. So we just put them in a big pile now. I don't have to fold them or anything like that. So it actually ended up working out for me in the end as well. That's something that I really recommend, is that when you're dealing with your children, if you find yourself bristling and getting frustrated, ask yourself, am I getting frustrated over something that's necessary? If it isn't necessary for your child's safety or for what you deem is best for their overall well-being, and understand those are limitations you place on yourself. They may change. But if from where you stand, it doesn't seem like it's actually really that important, drop the rope and let go. Let go. Okay? Let the kid do what they want to do if it's not really a pressing issue. And that takes that restriction off of the child and allows things to just roll much smoother in your house, because you're no longer pushing against something that's really not that big of a deal. Now, if you're bristling about something and you believe it's a big deal, and you happen to snap, oh well, it's okay. You know what? It felt like a big deal. I didn't know how else to deal with it. And in the moment, it made sense to snatch you out of that problem rather than to be nice and coddle you. All right? So understand that if it seems like it's a big deal, it may make you snap, and that's okay. But as you start to question whether or not the things that you're enforcing on your children are necessary, you're going to find that a lot of them are not necessary. A lot of them are matching socks issues. And the more you stop trying to enforce those kinds of things with your children, the more freedom your children feel that they have, the less you're engaging in fights with your children, the more that noise starts to die down, the less things that you have to feel guilty, the less times you actually snap. And if you're not snapping that much and you're only snapping over things that are actually big deal issues to you, you're going to feel like it's okay that you did that. Thanks so much for watching today's quick law of attraction video. Again, please make sure to subscribe and to turn on your notifications. And of course, make sure to have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.